Few people know that there is a town that seems to condense all of Tokyo's darkness. On the site of an Edo-period execution ground, a giant Jizo statue, said to have silently witnessed as many as 200,000 executions, still stands quietly today. Yamada Asaemon, who carried out beheadings here, gained enormous wealth. Nearby, rows of cheap inns house day laborers who, having been defeated in life, ended up in this town. In the adjacent block, where there was once a licensed red light district in the Edo period, pleasure industry businesses now stand side by side. This is a memorial monument for courtesans who had no relatives to claim their remains. This well marks the murder site of an Edo period serial killer samurai. In the middle of the town, a massive gas tank appears abruptly. On this bridge, several tragedies have occurred, and a memorial has been placed at its foot. Just behind one of Japan's most famous tourist destinations lies this town, filled with various loathed facilities and taboo sites. I walked through its streets. Almost every tourist who has ever stayed in Tokyo visits Asakusa. It's common to visit it together with the Tokyo Skytree, located across the Sumida River, a standard sightseeing course. Both are, so to speak, towns for visitors. If you want to experience the hardcore, deep side of Tokyo, I recommend the backyard of Asakusa, the Minami Senju area. Unlike the glittering Asakusa or Skytree area, Minami Senju is lined with facilities that people usually avoid. Here we are at Shirahige Bridge, the first bridge you reach if you head north along the Sumida River from the Skytree. From the bridge, looking south across the river, you can see 3 large gas tanks lined up. Head south toward them. On the side where I'm standing was once located Yoshiwara, the largest red light district in Japan. Although Yoshiwara itself is gone, adult entertainment businesses still remain here and there. Today, we're heading to the neighboring district that used to be called Sanya. Sanya was once known as one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Tokyo, but in recent years, it has reportedly become quite safe. Following the river, a grand shrine comes into view. This sacred shrine has a history of around 1,300 years, but the contrast with the massive industrial structures looming behind it is striking. Since the Edo period, this area has been the site for various so-called undesirable facilities. Although the river has now been covered over, back in the Edo period there was a bridge here. Beyond it stood an execution ground, and it is said that prisoners crossed this bridge in tears. Today, it still functions as a symbolic bridge of tears, where people whose dreams have been crushed arrive in this town. Just a few decades ago, many who ended up here lived on welfare and worked day labor jobs. It was common to see people drinking from midday or lying drunk in the street. There was a river flowing here and a bridge built over it. Simple lodgings costing around 2,200 yen per night lined the streets, providing shelter for these residents. Nowadays, more foreign backpackers are staying in these same accommodations. You can often spot them by the clusters of illegally parked bicycles outside. Although far fewer than before, there are still some people living and sleeping on the streets. Between gaps in the houses, the huge gas tanks from earlier come into view. Next to the Namidabashi area in the Sanya district lies the famous Yoshiwara. Yoshiwara was the name of the licensed red light district, Yoshiwara Yukaku, established on the outskirts of Edo during the Edo period, as well as the name of the area itself. Separated by the Yoshiwara Omon, the only entrance and exit to Yoshiwara, the world on the other side of the gate was one of extreme splendor, utterly different from the world outside. It served not only as a social venue for people of high social rank and as a hub for cultural trends, but its fundamental role was in the pleasure industry. Many of the women who worked there had been sold into service, or, having no family and nowhere else to turn, were forced by circumstance to work there to survive. Until their contracts expired, they were not permitted to leave through the gate, and the scene viewed by the customers arriving from beyond Yoshiwara Omon may have been the exact opposite of what the courtesans saw when they looked out from inside the pleasure quarters toward the world outside. In the Yoshiwara pleasure district, there was a brothel called Yotsumeya. The madam of the place, Sada, was stingy, ill-tempered, and disliked by the courtesans. By contrast, the most popular courtesan at Yotsumeya, Sayogoromo, was not only beautiful, but also deeply compassionate toward others, earning her a fine reputation even among her fellow courtesans. Sada could not bear the fact that her own employee, Sayogoromo, was more beloved by everyone than she was. One day, by some mishap, Sayogoromo carelessly left a flame unattended in her room, causing a small fire. The spiteful Madame Sada thought perfect and told the Yoshiwara officials investigating the matter. This is arson committed by Sayogoromo. Insisting on this claim, she ultimately saw to it that, in accordance with the strict law, Sayogoromo was sentenced to death by burning. When the first anniversary of Sayagoromo's death came around, a fire broke out at Yotsumeya. On her 3rd and 7th death anniversaries as well, fires struck again, and eventually the Yotsumeya brothel went out of business. "This is a curse. Sayagoromo's vengeful spirit remains," said one of the Yoshiwara patrons. "That must be it. What else could explain a fire on every memorial year? If we leave it like this, the entire Yoshiwara district might burn down. Before things get out of hand, we must somehow appease her spirit." Thus, by the consensus of the Yoshiwara patrons, a Buddhist memorial service was held to console Sayagoromo's soul. After that, the yearly fires ceased entirely. At a corner near the front gate, beside an information board, there still stands an old stone Jizo statue. It is called the Sayagoromo Jizo. Since the Edo period, the bodies of prostitutes from Yoshiwara who had fallen ill or grown old and were no longer in demand were discarded at this temple, almost as if thrown away. In modern times, the temple also holds funerals for day laborers living in Sanya who have no relatives to rely on. There is also a well at the site of a murder committed by a notorious samurai serial killer from the Edo period. His life story was even made into a Kabuki play. He was executed by crucifixion at the Suzugamori execution grounds. This tower is a memorial to the Yoshiwara courtesans who were abandoned at this temple. Beneath the roof of the tower are hair ornaments and other belongings, likely items they wore in life. Inside the tower are their remains. This, here, is a memorial monument for the people without family or anyone to rely on who once lived in the Namidabashi area we passed earlier. Incidentally, the Edo-period serial killer samurai I mentioned earlier, Hirai Gonpachi, was from present-day Tottori Prefecture. He fled after killing Honjo Sukadayu, a fellow samurai and colleague of his father, because Sukadayu had insulted his father. Making his way toward Edo, Gonpachi fell in love with a Yoshiwara courtesan named Komurasaki. Driven solely by the desire to see her, he murdered over 100 random passers-by, robbing them of money and valuables, which he then used to visit Komurasaki in Yoshiwara. Now Sukadayu, the man Gonpachi killed, had 2 sons. When they heard rumors that Gonpachi was hiding near Yoshiwara, they traveled to Edo. However, the elder brother was spotted by Gonpachi in a rice field near Yoshiwara and was beheaded. The younger brother, weeping, washed his brother's blood-soaked head in a well and swore to avenge him. But as he was following Gonpachi, he was discovered and cut down right in front of that very well. This is the site of that incident. In this area, you can catch glimpses of the Tokyo skytree here and there. About a 15-minute walk from this temple stands a shrine said to have been visited by the courtesans of Yoshiwara. Even today, the area around this shrine is lined with businesses connected to the pleasure industry, still fulfilling the same role it did in the Yoshiwara red light district days. Within the shrine grounds, there is a gate modeled after the Yoshiwara Omon, Great Gate. The willow tree in front is called the Mikayeri Yanagi, looking back willow, because people leaving Yoshiwara would turn to look back at it, reluctant to part. To the right of the gate is a notice board stating that entry was prohibited to anyone on horseback, except doctors, and that swords were forbidden. If you leave Yoshiwara Shrine and head left, you will come to the site where the Yoshiwara Omon once stood, now marked by 2 pillars. Continuing along the road, on your left you'll see the Mikayeri Yanagi mentioned earlier. Across the street on your left front side, you can spot an old building. This is the tendon shop and Sakura Nabe, horse meat hot pot, shop that have been designated important cultural properties. In 1889, the tendon shop Dote no Iseo was founded. It got its name because there was an earthen embankment, Dote, the Yoshiwara embankment, in front of the shop. Located close to the Yoshiwara Omon, the shop bustled around the clock. In the morning serving customers on their way home after a night out, at lunchtime serving the general public, in the late afternoon serving touts from the brothels, and at night fulfilling delivery orders from Yoshiwara courtesans. The building was completely destroyed in the Great Kanto earthquake of September 1, 1923, and rebuilt in 1927. During the Tokyo air raids of March 10, 1945, the wooden shop miraculously survived the flames. The Sakura Nabe restaurant Nakai was founded in 1905. At that time, horse meat hot pot was extremely popular in the Yoshiwara area. At its peak, there were said to be 20 to 30 such restaurants in the neighborhood alone. Part of the popularity came from the belief that eating horse meat boosted virility. In the Edo-period, Japan had an unspoken rule that 4-legged animals must not be eaten, so meats like wild boar were secretly consumed under names like mountain whale. However, horse meat, still a valuable source of labor and transport, was obtainable in this area because it was surrounded by farmland with many workhorses. Another source came from customers who arrived on horseback, lost all their money in Yoshiwara, and had to leave their horses as collateral for their debts. For these reasons, Sakura Nabe flourished here. But with the Pacific War, horses in Japan were requisitioned for military use, making horse meat difficult to obtain. Even if shops rebuilt after the Tokyo air raids, they could not secure ingredients, and one after another closed down. The current buildings, like Dote no Iseo, were rebuilt soon after the Great Kanto earthquake, making them nearly 100 years old. Both Sakura Nabe Nakai and Dote no Iseo were designated as national important cultural properties at the same time. 2 doors down, there is also a horse meat butcher shop still in business. If you turn right at the statue of Ashita no Jo, you will enter the center of Sanya. This is the day laborers district around Namidabashi. Ashita no Jo is a boxing manga that was a huge hit in the Showa era. It tells the story of a young man struggling to rise from the slums with nothing but his fists. The setting of the manga is precisely this neighborhood. Like the earlier Namidabashi, it depicts the dreams and the unfulfilled struggles of a protagonist who crosses back over the bridge. If you turn right at that alley, you'll reach the heart of Sanya, alongside Namidabashi, the Irohaki shopping street. A few decades ago, it had a roof like this, and at night, rows of cardboard houses would appear along both sides, seemingly out of nowhere, and the area would overflow with the homeless. Now the roof has been removed, and they have been driven into nearby parks. This space, which suddenly appears in the middle of a residential area, is said to be a temple. Could this building be the temple's main hall? I continue along the narrow, winding streets. It's a quintessential scene of Tokyo's Shitamachi, the old downtown, where tourists never set foot. After a while, I arrive at Minami Senju Station. In front of it stands a huge Jizo statue with a chilling history. This was once an execution ground during the Edo period. One theory holds that this street is called Bone Street because countless human remains were found during its construction work. This statue has witnessed an enormous number of executions. Some say 200,000 people, 30 to 40% of whom were later believed to be innocent. Many corpses were left exposed, scavenged by stray dogs and weasels, creating a hellish scene. Kubikiri means beheading. It is believed that a vast number of human remains are still buried in this area. In 1998, the construction of a railway uncovered the remains of 105 individuals, which was reported in the Asahi Shimbun. Executions here included burning at the stake, crucifixion, and beheading. The last thing a condemned prisoner might have seen before their sentence was carried out could have been the gaze of this Jizo statue. A place with such a heavy history stands right in front of the station, and every day, trains packed with commuters pass directly overhead. From the train window, it looks like this. Perhaps there are few places where such a weight of history and the flow of everyday life intersect so closely. The executioner responsible for beheadings was known as Yamada Asaemon. He received requests from people of high rank to execute criminals with his sword and then grade the blade's sharpness based on the cut. Yamada Asaemon was more like a hereditary title, and it is said the position was passed down through 8 or 9 generations. Because he tested sword sharpness on the human body, his written records are still considered first-class references for evaluating a sword's cutting ability. There are only 2 existing books in which sharpness was tested on human bodies, and they are highly valued by sword appraisers. Since executing criminals was considered dishonorable for a samurai, the role of Yamada Asaemon was held by ronin, masterless samurai. Nevertheless, each generation of Yamada Asaemon was highly skilled with the sword. Normally, ronin earned little income, but Yamada Asaemon owned a large estate in central Edo. The reason was a side business. The Yamada family manufactured medicinal pills, said to cure tuberculosis, made from human organs such as livers, brains, gallbladders, and bile. These were sold under names like Yamada Maru, Asaemon Maru, Jintan Maru, Nintan, and Asayama Maru, generating an enormous income for the family. The role of a beheaded body did not end with execution. These bodies were taken in by scholars of Dutch learning such as Sugita Genpaku, who conducted dissections based on Unclaimed Kundige Tafelen, a Dutch anatomical atlas. This became a major turning point in shifting Japan's medical practice, then dominated by Chinese medicine, toward Western medicine. Within the temple grounds stands a monument presented by the Japan Medical Association in recognition of this contribution. The temple is also home to the graves of the infamous poisoner Takahashi Oden, the legendary Yakuza, chivalrous outlaw, Kizaburo, the god of professional wrestling, Karl Gotch, and the thinker Yoshida Shoin. At the beginning, when we looked south from Shirahige Bridge, we could see another bridge. If walking from Asakusa to the Skytree, you must cross either Azuma Bridge or this Kotatoi Bridge. At the west end of the bridge in Sumida Park, there is a memorial monument for air raid victims, alongside a blackened section of the original parapet removed during renovations in 1992. According to the sign, this area of Sumida Park was used as a temporary burial site for many who perished in the March 10, 1945, Tokyo air raid and other bombings during World War II. Many residents of what was then Shitaya Ward and Asakusa Ward lost their lives. Their bodies were temporarily buried in parks and later cremated, with remains interred at the Tokyo Memorial Hall in Sumida Ward. 40 years after the war, with peace and prosperity, these tragic events were fading from memory. The ward gathered the remaining records and testimonies, created a list of victims, and erected this monument. During the air raid, many people from Asakusa tried to cross Kotatoi Bridge to escape to the opposite bank, thinking it would be safe, but the Mukojima and Honjo districts across the river were already ablaze. Residents from both sides met on the bridge, trapped, when incendiary bombs fell, killing and injuring many. The blackened sections of the bridge's pillars are said locally to be from human fat burned into the stone. It is said that about 90% of homes in this area were destroyed. Most tourists know nothing of such sorrowful history as they head toward the Skytree today. Japan Bee is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres. The tree-dappled light is amazing. The water is crystal clear.
He's coming this way.
He is coming this way. When you're tired of the hustle and bustle of the city, you'll want to be soothed by the abundance of nature. In times like these, we recommend a picnic in Higashikurume.
Oh.
When people think of Tokyo, they usually imagine a futuristic skyline, crowded stations, and the constant noise of urban life. However, on the eastern edge of Tokyo, along the Edogawa River, lies a quiet town that still retains the atmosphere of the Edo period, Shibamata. Tokyo has many Japanese gardens, but few places offer the same level of grandeur, tranquility, and low foot traffic as this one. 3 major rivers flow through Tokyo. The Tama River, which separates Tokyo from Kanagawa Prefecture, and the Arakawa River, which cuts straight through Tokyo, are both heavily reinforced with concrete embankments. In contrast, the Edogawa River that flows through Shibamata is surrounded by nature, where skylarks sing and wild greenery thrives. Located at Tokyo's edge, just across the river from Chiba Prefecture, Shibamata is sometimes referred to as a landlocked island due to its limited public transportation options. But it is precisely this remoteness that has preserved the town's timeless charm. Compared to other tourist areas, you'll rarely see foreign visitors here. What remains is a strong sense of old downtown Tokyo culture and a gentle, unhurried pace of life. The Suidabashi, Karakuen, and Kasuga area, known as the sacred ground of judo, is also home to a concentration of martial arts and combat sports equipment stores, and is considered a mecca for Japanese boxing, pro wrestling, and kickboxing. What few people know is that within this neighborhood lies an area where time seems to have stood still since the Showa era. Beyond this small enclave, you'll find a rare sight in Tokyo, a shrine where rows of torii gates stand tall,